Hey everybody, welcome to Technically Unraveled. I'm Kristen, the Senior Director of Microsoft Go-to-Market here at Pax8. Thanks so much for joining us live. If you're watching it after, thanks for watching on demand. I want to make sure you like, share, subscribe, because we've got a ton of content that will be coming your way from not only Technically Unraveled, but from the game, from the Academy team, lots of stuff coming your way. So make sure you like, share, subscribe. We're going to change up the show a little bit, right? We usually do updates, but we have so much content today. We are going to go straight to our guest, Jake Humphrey. Thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Hey, Kristen. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I am doing good. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us. You're in a different role now. So tell us who you are and what you do now at Pax8.
Yeah, I've actually recently moved into a new position where I'm the senior manager of partner experience, focus on enablement. So I actually now look to help partners on their journey within Pax8 and by developing and enabling programs that just kind of help them drive their success and create that story within Pax8.
So you're a partner experience co-pilot guy, is what I just heard.
Copilot is going to be a big part of what I'm going to be involved in, yes.
Awesome. So I really appreciate you taking the time to jump in because there's a couple things that are new that I really wanted to just kind of pick your brain on. And I'm just going to jump right in if you don't mind, because restricted Sharepoint search, it's new, it's been floating around. We've heard a lot of buzz about it, but can you just give me a quick overview of what it is?
Yeah, this is actually a feature I've been waiting for a while with people looking to adopt Copilot. This actually allows organizations to be able to restrict or disable or just limit what users can really get to when they are submitting Copilots. So kind of allowing for a little bit more of a secure use with kind of the whole Copilot structure.
Got it. So when you say limit the use, is it just drawing a box and saying only look at this, like that's it? We just draw the box and say only look at this stuff.
Sort of. It allows you to kind of set the parameters that users can go through and kind of search. So it allows me as an organization to kind of say like, hey, let's make sure all these HR sensitive files are not exposed inside of Copilot. Let's make sure that anything that is sensitive information that we do not want maybe frontline employees or just non-sensitive employees kind of handling. We want to make it so I can't go into my organization and just continue to search for, hey, Copilot, find me Kristen Fehrenbach's salary. It prevents us from having to go through and actually, define that. So we can kind of set that rules of engagement a little.
I know you tried to do that.
Oh, repeatedly. Not much.
So when I'm thinking about Copilot, right? I mean, so this is going to play in the fact of when I go in and search, it's not going to search the entire company database at that point. Is that how this connects into Copilot?
Yeah, this actually allows you to just put whatever restrictions you see fit. You can actually put in specific sites. Say, hey, we only want to allow searching in these sites. You can do a mass restriction, or you can just kind of set whatever rules you kind of really want users to play by with.
Okay. So new functionality, right? So this is something that's new to Microsoft. Is this just widely available? Is this like a specific license of SharePoint that we're supposed to go in and look at? Or is this just an add-on? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, this is actually already going to be included for anyone kind of currently running any Copilot structures. It's going to allow already in there. You're not going to have to purchase this feature. It's not going to have to be specifically paid for or need to get some brand new fancy license. If you have the licensing that covers these features, it is already there. It's currently in public preview, and I believe it is going to go to a general rollout next month.
Man,
Not
that's
soon.
soon.
For me, but
I know. I was like, I feel like they really were expediting this because Obviously there was a lot of concern around,
Yeah.
people going in and searching people's salaries, Jake. So I really was excited to hear that Microsoft listened to the feedback. I know that this was something that we continued to talk about. So how do we turn it on? Like, is it on? Is it off? Do we like hit a button? What do we do?
Yeah. For right now, and this is available all through Microsoft's documentation. For right now, it is all just enabled through PowerShell. Same thing for kind of doing just a simple CSV upload through a PowerShell command to kind of say these are the sites that we want to restrict into, and just simple as that. They give actually very solid instruction of kind of that very simple input.
Solid instruction. I love it. So there's Microsoft
Man,
documentation, super helpful, right? And then you were part of our ProServe team for a
yeah.
long time, Jake. And we did a lot of SharePoint, migrations. We did a lot of stuff in SharePoint. So is this something that, like, hey, if partners are saying this is new, I'm a little unsure, is this something our ProServe team could even lean in on?
Absolutely. This is something that we can definitely kind of go through, advise in on, go through the enablement. It's very straightforward. You can even kind of show here's how you can make that listing. And it kind of just really help that full end to end.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So we go in, we read the documentation. It is now activated. It's on. I'm only searching in this one specific area that, people are certain that their data is cleaned up. Nothing crazy is going to happen, right? Now for the user, right? So say I'm in marketing, right? And I go in and I am typing something in. Am I just going to get a big red X and it's going to say restricted SharePoint search? I can't see this. What is the user experience of Copilot like on the other side when this is actually enabled?
Yeah, from an end user perspective, it's going to be pretty simple. Once someone starts going in to provide a Copilot prompt, they're just going to have a little banner right up at the top of the window that says, hey, your organization is restricting this search. They will still be allowed to access anything that they have existing permissions on. They will be able to go through and everything like normal. Their actual day-to-day functionality of things that they need to access, and that is within these guidelines the organization has set, are going to have no difference whatsoever. So I think the biggest question is what's the end user issue? And there is none. It's going to be that little banner, and that's going to be the only really noticeable thing from the end user.
Hmm. I'm waiting for a
Right?
catch. Like, do you have a catch for me? Like, is it that
Or
easy? It can't be that easy.
I mean, it is that easy, and from an end user side, there are no other catches, so to speak. The only thing
Nice.
that I do want to alert people of with this is that obviously there's going to be less data that Copilot is going to be able to pull from. So some of your prompts may be a little less accurate when you are searching for things to your organization because it's not going to be able to pull from all that same type of data points that it would be able to if it was completely unrestricted. But again, I think that this is a
Sure.
great, great thing to have. And it really helps those who have been very cautious of having Copilot in their infrastructure for this exact.
100%. And I mean, when we've talked to partners, I mean, we've done partner advisory councils, we've talked to partners at events. The number one thing that I've even just personally heard is we're worried about the data. What about data? What do we do here? Data management, that has been such a big thing. So I think, for those partners that want to just go ahead and get started with Copilot, this is going to allow for a faster activation, which is great. But there's a lot of changes in M365. I don't have to tell you that. You keep up to date very well, but where are you keeping up to date and where should partners look to maybe see what's coming?
Yeah, Microsoft on their website actually just has their Microsoft 365 roadmap. That will show everything that is in development, that is in process of rollout. All those things. It'll give statuses, it'll give dates. I always recommend people go through and kind of check through that. I think I checked earlier today. There was about 640 total things that Microsoft is working on. There are always really good pieces of information to just kind of say like, hey, this is a feature that I'm looking forward to. When can I look?
That is awesome. I love it. Okay. You're not getting away yet because I've got more
Great.
outside of SharePoint because I want to talk about Blackpoint. And we have a strategic partnership, not only as Pax8, but Microsoft. So I really want to keep you here for a moment because I want to talk about Don't hate me, everybody. We're going to talk about some acronyms. I want to talk about EDR. I want to talk about MDR. What do these mean as co-pilots coming in? So, Jake, starting with EDR. One, what does it mean? And let's just kind of talk about it.
Yeah, EDR is your endpoint detection and response. So that's going to be something that you kind of deploy out to your machines and is going to be able to just kind of, in over simple terms, just watch things for you. To be able to kind of check in on any illicit activity on actual endpoints. When we are talking about specific machines, you can kind of check for anything dangerous that might be going on. It can kind of go through logging information, perform mitigations, all of those things from the actual device perspective. Your laptop, your desktop, any of that type of stuff, that is what EDR is going to really.
Got it. Okay. So EDR is looking at my endpoints. And EDR is taken care of through Business Premium. I know that you and I talk Business Premium a lot on this show, but if that's taken care of already through Business Premium, that leaves a gap for MDR. So what is MDR and what does that mean?
MDR is your managed detection and response. So that is basically your organization at a whole level. So, you kind of have your front lines of your actual devices. Now it's going to be cool. What about your back end? What about your kind of insider threat pieces? What about your privileged access, your privileged accounts, just general activity? Those are going to be some additional pieces that require extra monitoring, extra protections, and then extra alerting. So that's going to be kind of your primary target with MDR.
Okay. So when I think of Blackpoint, I know that they have the MDR service, right? So if I'm thinking about the flow of how partners can get secure for AI, we want to get people on a premium SKU. And that's Business Premium. It's E3, it's E5, right? So depending on the size, obviously it's going to be business or enterprise. But we want them to utilize restricted Sharepoint search. Mm-hmm. We want them to activate MDR, right? Is that kind of the flow when we think of Copilot?
Absolutely. I mean, with all of these and Copilot, separate Copilot, whatever you kind of have, this is all going to be just a layered defense model. You want to make sure that you're kind of doing as much as possible. Really now with insider threat becoming a thing, it is not always malicious. It is a lot of time accidental. Doing all of these pieces together are going to really help set up that line to make sure that your users are not accidentally stumbling into something they shouldn't be, or releasing something they shouldn't be, or just learning something that they shouldn't be. Those type of situations, all of these together will really help kind of keep that in line and allow you to use Copilot in a much safer fashion to be able to really propel your business forward.
I love it. So that's the whole thing here is, of course, I want them using Copilot, but we want people doing it in a safe and secure manner. So exactly. I love that, hey, you know what? We're going to use EDR through Business Premium or one of those, E3, E5, but let's make sure we actually have the managed portion as well. So when I think of MDR, like how does that actually work, right? Like what does managed mean when I talk about MDR?
Yeah, really, it's just kind of taking a backseat and just monitoring your organization as a whole. So it's going to be able to kind of set up alerts. It's going to be able to kind of just look at activity that users are kind of taking, and it will help you decide like, hey, this is just Kristen accessing something in her OneDrive she accesses every single day. Or this is Kristen accessing something inside an HR site that she accidentally got access into and she does not normally access. That can be something of what is Kristen doing or what is someone who is posing as Kristen doing, and kind of help point out a lot of that unusual activity. Is probably one of the bigger benefits that I'm kind of seeing today.
Awesome. That is super helpful. Jake, it's always a pleasure having you on. I'm super happy for you to come back anytime at all. So thanks for walking us through those, and we're going to have you back on soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. Always happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. All right. Talked about restricted Sharepoint search. We talked about Blackpoint. Now, I'm really excited to bring on somebody from Cyrisma. So, Liam, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Kristen. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So, Liam, tell us who you are and what you do at Cyrisma.
Well, I'm the Chief Product Officer, so focus on the platform itself. I'm one of the original founders. So basically being kind of the idea behind Cyrisma back in the day. I hate saying that, but 2018 seems like so many years ago with the
Back
whole
in the
COVID
day.
thing. Years have just gone by, right? So 2018, I saw an actual issue with cybersecurity become complex, expensive, the whole 9 yards. I wanted to be able to build a platform to be able to, in essence, kind of give back to the community, but in a way of making cybersecurity accessible, affordable, and simplistic. And it's just cultivated from there with feedback from our partners that we started off with data, now we got vulnerability, and the list is just going on that we want to build into strategic to also tactical. And I'll try to not use acronyms. I'll try to use the full words, not so we don't get everybody confused on acronyms. So you write a whole book on them, right? So
Oh my gosh, between, Pax8, between that, Microsoft, all of that, I mean, I feel like
oh yeah.
my world revolves in acronyms. So I
Mm-hmm.
do it
Yeah.
as well. And so we're gonna try our hardest. So being that you're one of the founders, I feel like you're the right person to tell me what
Mm-hmm.
Cyrisma actually does.
Well, it's all right. So this is a term. What I ask people is, what do they think the name Cyrisma came from? Right? It's actually an acronym. Sorry, but it is. It's an acronym, but it actually stands for Cyber Risk Management, right? So Cyrisma,
Okay.
right? So basically, but in actuality, the real thing is actually supposed to stand for Cyber Risk Information Security Management Accountability. But everybody says that's way too long. Let's just keep it simple, right? Because if we're trying to keep it simple, let's do it. But it actually what it does is it's to be able to be proactive instead of reactive, right? And it's to be able to identify where you have issues and risks. That's what we want to do with the platform is one, find out where your sensitive data is, see if those systems are vulnerable, are they securely configured, and then build out a dashboard around that so we can make sure that it's successful in everything that we do. And also provide information that entities that use it, the MSPs, even their clients, if they want to log in, can actually really see what's happening behind the curtain to see exactly how secure is their environment and are they actively being proactively protected. And that's where the accountability aspect comes in. But it's a key thing in this day and age because it's no longer pointing fingers. We all have a responsibility when it comes to sensitive data and protecting it.
Absolutely. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've talked about it on this show before that it doesn't really matter where you're at today, just get started
Correct.
somewhere.
Correct.
And I think that's a nice segue into Pax8 has a special funded offer for partners.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually through Cyrisma. So can you walk me through what this assessment actually does and what are we able to offer?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I use the term data is like the new oil spill. It's everywhere, right? It's kind of, you've got it in the cloud, you've got it on-prem, you've got it everywhere. But now that you've got stuff that's happening like with professional services using Microsoft Copilot, right? And we've just mentioned before with Jake before is a big issue. When you have, let's say you've got a work placement person coming and joining your company for 2 weeks, you don't want them to use Copilot and all of a sudden start seeing trade secrets and intellectual property. It leads to a lot more information, right? It leads into more details around kind of all the different things like industrial espionage. People could take advantage of it. That's potentially going to happen. So what the professional services doing is be able to allow MSPs to take advantage, to be able to use Cyrisma to one, is there issues with the SharePoint, as in does it house sensitive data, not only SharePoint, OneDrive, as well as email, and then actually see are they really truly ready for Microsoft Copilot, right? And seeing where their score is, where their aspects of both productivity, organization, data security, but then feeding that back in with an output report of seeing where they stand and with next steps and actions and a conclusion that's kind of personalized for that entity so they can see, all right, but it's not once and done. It's a continual improvement process, which means, okay, once you've got this, you can establish whether you can put Copilot in place. And if you put it in place, are you successfully going to utilize it in the correct manner that it's supposed to be designed for, to provide you support, but not provide you more information than you need to know, but also making sure that you're maintaining that on an ongoing basis. Because as we live in the world we're in, we can focus on it today, but then tomorrow we'll work on something different, but we never go back to it to another following year and find out that we're back to where we were a year ago. So we need to make sure that that's ongoing. So that's one of the things that we do with the professional services. They collect that information and generate a nice report that they can see if they're Copilot ready.
I love it. I love it. So I know we brought in some slides, so I want to kind of go through those because, when we talk about the readiness assessment, like I absolutely want people to use Copilot because I've been using it for a while now, and it's really, it transforms the way that you work. And I think that they can get started early with restricted SharePoint access. I think that's a Band-Aid. I think that we need to make sure that we're actually solving the underlying issue. And I think that this is the first step. So let's just kind of talk through some of these slides as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we already know that, generative AI or virtual assistants, it's the new kid on the block. It's going to be here. So no matter what we say, it's going to be part of our life. It's going to get bigger. It's going to be a lot of issues come along the way because AI is there. But there's now you got Gemini from Google Workspace, you've got ChatGPT, you've got Microsoft Copilot. It's all there to provide you that support. But it does come with that inherent risk of data access. Who has access to that data? It's kind of like using the term zero trust, right? But you can't establish zero trust anywhere until you know where your data is, and then you can perform the restrictive access to it. So it only need to know. It's kind of like going back to military days with sensitivity labels, top secret, all this kind of stuff. It's a similar thing, but it also goes back to administrative. But this is the thing that we start off with, because as new technology comes in, we're not thinking of the ramifications of something. It's that new shiny toy. We get it implemented, and we're not thinking of security as part of the process. We think it after the fact, and it's a, oh my goodness moment. And we're left with an issue like a data breach or something of that nature. Next slide. And that's where I was saying before, data is everywhere, right? And it is a big problem because not only do you have it on-prem, you've got it in USB drives, you have it in email, you have it in SharePoint, you have it in OneDrive, and then people don't think you also have it in shared links that you share to various people outside of your organization, right? Yeah. And that all comes part of, even though with the restrictive search process, is saying making sure that you don't have a default setting, which means anonymous, everyone has read access. So if you clear it to share, it defaults it, not realizing you can send it to somebody, they can send it to 20 other people you don't even know about, and they have access to that same data. So all these things need to come into play as part of that. So, and that's where this whole idea of the Copilot readiness assessment process really kicks in actually identifying where your potential problems are, so you can actually mitigate them before they become an issue or a breach or compromise and so forth. But yes.
Awesome.
Next slide.
So we want to use this to make sure that, hey, you know what? They might already be even using Copilot, right? But they might be using it just like, hey, only look in this area. But this is actually going to search their entire data estate, from my understanding, right?
Yep.
Okay,
and then
perfect.
You can do a search. And we do that. So basically for us, it's kind of like, where's your data located, right? What sites is it in? What type of data is it? Is it sensitive, right? In the sense, what I mean by that is it social security numbers, driver's license, intellectual property? The list can go on. Even custom data that you determine that is basically private is deemed as sensitive. But then it goes back and says who has access to that organizational data, both internal and external, and who's the data shared to and by whom, right? Because now you want to be able to say, do I need to do additional training? There's implementation process around that. But then that's just finding the data. The next step is then you actually have to try and complete the assessment, right? To understand, is your environment theoretically ready for Copilot, both at an organizational level? Do I have the right licensing in place? Am I using the tools correctly? Because there is blocks that Microsoft put in place to say, if you're using these things, you can't really utilize it. You can't take advantage of Copilot unless you have these things implemented. But then the key thing is, are you willing to accept what the report is providing you to be able to implement, so you can successfully implement Copilot or any type of AI services successfully? But it all basically is around the data. It's that security concentric rings. It's kind of like saying that has the most value, not only for yourself, but any outside person that's trying to get access to your data, whether it's through authorized means or unauthorized means, they want to get access to that data. And you need to make sure you know who has access to it, so you're not leaving yourself open for any potential issues down the road that could end up impacting your brand, but also could basically put you out of business if you're not really configuring it correctly.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the whole scary part, where I think people are saying, hey, you know what? I'm interested in Copilot, just not yet. And so I'm trying to get those people who are like super interested, but a little hesitant to say it doesn't have to be too scary.
Correct. Absolutely. So in that sense, being that in a way of looking at things, it's looking at it and saying, okay, how do I take this and move it to the next step, right? And that basically is utilizing a product like Cyrisma. Is how simple is it? And you've got pretty much 5 steps that you see right in here. It's not something you can do in an hour. It's going to take time. But the first thing you do is, before you look at any of the features that we have within the platform, it is basically saying, hey, integrate into your Office 365. Okay, that's what Cyrisma first things does. Is Office 365. That'll give you information on Active Directory, your Azure AD or Entra ID. It'll bring you information such as Microsoft Secure Score, where you can look at default configurations. It also then allows you then to start looking at performing data scans within your cloud, within your OneDrive, and within your any type of email as well. Then once you've done that, then you can set up your scans, your actual sensitive data scans itself. And then that's very easy to kind of just point and click. Don't do all of everything all at once. Choose your battles, because you know where most sensitive data is. Logically look at that and work outwards. First thing you do is look at like HR, finance, marketing, sales, those type of information, and then work outwards. Then if you have a public kind of thing where everybody dumps everything, we're all hoarders, right? When we see space, we got to fill it up with something. So if they have a SharePoint that everybody uses, you know there's going to be sensitive data in there. Wait that to the end, because that's going to be your largest data pool. Once you've completed that, then focus on the assessment. And once you've gone through the assessment itself, whether you assign that to internal people or to external people to answer those questions for you, then you're able to then generate a report, read the results, and perform and provide your own conclusions and summary, and then provide an action plan, like step 1, step 2, step 3. Here's the actions that you need to do. And the biggest thing that a lot of people need to do is then review the report and present it. Because if you don't present it, then you're handing it over. It's like you handing the keys over, but no user manual. But you've got to be able to talk them through it so that your customer or your client can actually understand why you're doing this, what the ramifications can be, but also that you're there to help them and provide them a service to really allow them to be able to take advantage of services like that.
Absolutely. And so I think that that's super clear, right? And we're saying, hey, you know what, go in. And I love that you're saying, hey, you know, if there's room, people are going to fill it. It's like me packing a bag to go on any vacation.
Yeah.
Like if there's an extra spot in there, I'm filling it with whatever. So, but that's the same thing that people do with all their documents. They're like, oh, just throw it in and, you know, I'm not worried about it. So, you know, people will go through, they'll try to clean it up. We'll run the assessment, and then there's the readout. So I think that's super important. But this is a one-time assessment. Now, I know that you have an ongoing option, and I want you to talk me through that, because, you know, Pax8's funding the one-time assessment. But what is the ongoing one, and what does that mean?
So with the ongoing process is basically you go through the marketplace within Pax8 and sign up, right? And basically what you get access to is not only the ability to perform your own kind of Copilot readiness assessments, but also take advantage of all the other features within the platform. Your vulnerability management, your secure configuration, the whole 9 yards. But the idea behind it was the ability to work from, you know, the defense in depth, but inside out, right? Find out what your sensitive data is. Are those systems vulnerable? Are they securely configured? Can I put a mitigation in place to mitigate that and roll that up into a security scorecard? Then not only are you identifying, you know, issues today, but you're also providing protection in the future, because you have that ongoing, whether you do that weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly for the customer itself. That's all available within the platform itself, and it's not once and done. It's that continual improvement process, which is a value to provide trust and showing in tighter relationships with your clients that you have by utilizing a tool like Cyrisma.
Man, I think that's great, because look, here's the thing, is that if you run this one-time assessment, right, you might get it all cleaned up for today, but what happens if, you know, people continue to dump things into this open suitcase, right? I mean, so the ongoing assessment would continue to monitor things such as that.
Correct.
Man,
and that's the key thing. And it's the biggest thing for us is that it's identifying those issues and mitigating them, but also showing a level that it's not just the MSP that has to do all the work. There's a level of accountability at their clients as well, because it's a part of business. It's not a bolt-on. Everybody needs to have some level of understanding the accountability to protect that data, and so they can be successful in what they do, to allow organizations to become more profitable and more resilient when it comes to cybersecurity.
Man, okay. So I think that's great, because look, we'll get people started using restricted search if we need to. At the same time, let's go ahead and fix the underlying issue, right? And then there's also that option for the ongoing management, and that's going to help protect them in the long run. So, as we come up on a quick 30 minutes today, I feel like time has flown by, Liam. But before we wrap, how do partners interact with you guys? How do we get people started down this assessment path?
Yeah, there's two ways. One, again, you got professional services that you have with Pax8 to engage and utilize Cyrisma, but also the ability to sign up directly through within the platform itself, right? There's a form to fill that out and then provide that through. And then there's additional ongoing services because, again, it doesn't stop there. You could also engage with professional services itself within Pax8 to help them to kind of solidify their output, but also engage with Cyrisma on an ongoing basis, utilizing the platform to maintain the integrity of their clients and themselves, because we all have to walk in our own shoes, right? We can't talk a good game if we don't do it ourselves. So we have to do it as well and make sure that you have and take advantage of the NFR that's given to you as part of the sign-up process when you check out Cyrisma in the marketplace, and utilize it internally, because you'll gain a greater knowledge of how the platform can really help you, but also your clients as well.
Awesome. Liam, this was super, super valuable. I feel like we're going to need to have you back, because I feel like we're going to have to go back through in a deeper level what all of this means in the future. But I'm excited to get people started with Copilot in a secure manner. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
All right, man, another Copilot session down, everybody. I think let's go ahead and get you started today. Let's get your Copilot licenses up. Let's make sure that you are enabled with restricted SharePoint search. We have a great partnership with Blackpoint, and you heard from Cyrisma. That is your SMB Copilot stack, everybody. I am super excited to bring this to you. We've got a lot more coming to you soon, so make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.